It's BayRadio, this is Dougie Mac, and we have a few questions to ask about this new law that's coming in. If you're a dog owner, we love our dogs, and we want to make sure we do what's right by them. Now, there's a new law coming in on the 29th of September that you must have public liability insurance for your dog. I'm here with Rafa Nadales from Liberty Seguros. Hi, Rafa.
Hello, good morning, though. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Now, this is quite an issue, isn't it? I mean, this is, to a lot of people, this has happened quite suddenly.
It is actually something very, very new, and it's something that we have never had such a thing in Spain beforehand. And only there are certain communities or certain regions in Spain where the dog insurance was obligatory up until now, which is Madrid and the Basque Country. But in the rest of the country, in the rest of Spain, there is no such an obligation, and although there is only an obligation to have this public liability only if the dog is considered a dangerous breed of dog. Mm-hmm. That's the only case.
Now, there's been all sorts of conflicting ideas and reports on social media, most of them wrong because it's social media. But now, first of all, home insurance policies. Is this going to cover the pet liability?
Yes, I would say that most of the current home insurance policies in Spain already include the public liability that has cover for this for the dog owner. Okay, and I will say most of them because there may be some companies that do not include, but I won't say that it's too many of them. Okay, at least in Liberty we include the public liability or the what we call the family or the policyholder public liability, which includes the cover in case you are a dog owner in Spain. Always subject to that dog not being a dangerous breed of dog. If, for example, if your dog is considered as a dangerous breed of dog, then you can have an additional cover in your home policy to cover public liability for a dangerous breed of dog.
I understand that dogs deemed dangerous breeds will not be called that in future. What's that about?
There is something on the law that we haven't talked about, is that now dangerous breed of dog will not be called dangerous breed of dog, simply to be politically correct, okay?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the dog can be dangerous or not. Then we have a new concept, which is dog of, sorry for the translation, but it says something similar to dog of special handling, okay? So instead of if your dog was dangerous breed of dog, now it's a dog with a special handling.
What sort of limitations or exclusions could be expected?
Well, there are not such big exclusions. The only thing that you have to bear in mind is that in order to have cover, a general cover for public liability, you have to be, your home insurance has to cover your main residence. So, for example, if you have a holiday home in Spain, then you are not considered to be kind of a resident here in Spain. So your public liability for your home insurance in Spain will not cover that, okay? It has to be covered through your home country public liability policy. Other than that, I don't see any other exclusion. The only, bearing in mind that this cover dogs that are not considered as dangerous breed of dog.
I've had a couple of questions in from people quite concerned, and one of those questions is there a policy that would cover both public liability and medical insurance?
Yes, there is a policy that is called the pet insurance policy, where you can have a basic cover that will provide you cover in case the dog has an accident, or the dog has to be put to sleep, or basically to cover the cremation cost of the dog. This is the basic cover plan. That you can have also additional cover to cover the veterinary fees. For example, if your dog is diagnosed with an illness and you have to take the dog to the vet center, then the pet insurance policy will cover such costs. And you can also include liability cover to your pet insurance policy. So that's another option, to have liability insurance for your dog.
And what sort of premium? I guess it's going to differ between the size of the dog, the age of the dog, but what sort of, say for instance, a 15-year-old dog under 10 kilos, and it's like a terrier type?
If we expect just the basic cover with public liability, we will be talking about €75 per year, which is not very expensive.
What about if the dog is a bit bigger, maybe younger?
It won't change too much, okay, because that's what we consider a basic cover. including public liability. So I would say between 7,500 euros per year per policy. The premium will increase if you take out the cover for the cost of veterinary fees.
Now, this was passed in March, this law, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So how far down the line are we with it? Because it comes into law on the 29th of September. Before we went on, you were explaining to me about how there's kind of some grey areas, aren't there?
It is actually a little bit of a grey area. Well, the law was actually passed by the end of March last year, and it was published in the Spanish official gazette. So it was supposed that the law will become in force 6 months after being published in the official gazette. Right, so we are now at the end of September. The law is supposed to be in force on the 29th of September this year. However, we have an unusual situation in Spain. As you know, at the moment, after the general elections, we don't have an official government. What we have is what we call an acting government. And this acting government has limited capacities, okay? So after the law was passed, the government should have been developing the regulations of this law. This regulation of this law will develop the content of the law itself. For example, the law says that every dog owner will be obliged to have a mandatory public liability insurance policy. However, the law doesn't establish which is the minimum cover requested. This should be explained and detailed in these regulations. Okay. Another quite interesting point of this law is that every dog owner will have to pass a test, okay, like a capability test. The law only establishes that new owners have to pass the test, and existing owners will have a period of 2 years to pass this test. However, you don't find anything in the law about the content of the test and who is going to provide the test and who is going to certify the capability of the dog owner. This is why, at the moment, we have recent news from the ministry last week, saying that the law will be enforced after the 29th of September, but there will be certain part of the laws that will not be enforced. One of these part that will not be enforced or will not be applicable is the obligation of having an insurance policy. The reason, as explained, is because the law or the regulation that had not been approved yet don't establish how much is the minimum cover for this insurance policy. Just to give you an idea, the dangerous breed of dog that are obliged to have a mandatory insurance policy at the moment, this insurance policy for dangerous breed of dog establishes a minimum cover of 120,000 euros per year. But at the moment, we don't know if this will be the figure that will be used for the new mandatory insurance policy, or there will be a different cover or a different amount.
These tests that, for instance, I will have to take for my dog, but I don't know what that's going to be because nobody knows. Nobody knows what.
Nobody knows it.
Right. Okay. So, any idea what form these tests may take?
To be honest with you, no idea. Simply because first we have to have a government in place, and once there is a government in place, they will have the capacity to develop the regulations. But at the current situation, we don't know yet.
Yeah. Anybody's guess.
Yeah.
I like to think I'm a responsible dog owner, so hopefully the test won't be too difficult.
I don't think the test will be too difficult, and mainly if you have been owning a dog for years, you will be more than capable to pass the test for sure. But we guess that most of the dog owners will be taking out a public liability insurance, basically because sooner or later they will have to have it. Anyway, something that I will recommend everyone is that they simply have to check their home policy. And most probably they won't have to take out a new insurance policy. What I recommend them is to check the current insurance policy they have, the current home insurance policy. If they can check it with an insurance agent or an insurance broker, so that just to verify that they have cover for public liability for dogs, and they will only have to ask the agent or the broker to register the details of the dog, mainly the chip number and the name of the dog, and that's all.
What do you think of this new law?
Well, I think it's a matter of responsibility at the end of the day. It's something that they have put on paper what has been in society for the last few years, okay? So at the end of the day, it's just to put a little bit of order, okay? And mainly with regards to this public liability, because there are more and more dogs on the streets now. I don't mean free on the street, but and they can cause certain damages that, we have to protect everyone's, okay? And I think it's a good law that will bring more security and more safety to dogs and to dog owners as well.
Absolutely. Now, if anybody listening to this wanted to know more, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can contact Liberty Seguros, one of the expert agents or brokers, and they can refer to me, or they can also talk to the insurance agent or broker. They are fully qualified to give advice about this new liability insurance, and for sure, what they will recommend them is, if the customer already have a home policy, is just to register the name and the details of the dog in the policy, and that way they won't have to pay anything extra.
Okay. Rafa, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're more than welcome, Doug.
Fingers crossed I can pass this test.
Hope so. I hope we can talk in the next few months. Don't know how many, but in the next few months.
Yes, let's catch up once the halls of power have settled down and decided upon the finer details.
I will be here to talk to you.